Welcome everybody to the Cosmic Tower Q&A call, April 2nd, 2024. I just muted everybody, but I just want you to know we love hearing your voices on the call. We're just filtering out extraneous noise. So if you have a question or you want to comment, or you want to play, if you have your video turned on, you can wave and we'll acknowledge you and unmute you and get you in the conversation. You can use the chat to put questions in. We love hearing your voices too. This isn't about our voices. This is about what we all create together. And there's a lot going on. We've been primarily focused on Europe, and oh boy, there's just a whole swath of tasks and new adventures to figure out, and that's been taking a lot of our time and energy. And so in terms of preparation for this Q&A call, we have a half dozen questions already prepared. Usually we have 15 or 20. So if you all have questions or you want to get in the community dialogue, like today's the day. If you want to know more about what's going on in Europe, I'll leave it to you. Let me check with you, Nico. Is there anything specifically, Nico, about Europe that you want to share and update people on?
No, not specifically. We're jumping through all the hoops in Europe, all the bureaucracy of VAT numbers, how you do business with different countries, which is not the most fun to work on, but it has to be done. But just a lot of excitement in Europe, and I like the way it's developing it, because with Harald, it was pretty much a one-man project. I mean, he did have coordinators within the country, but Harald would just drive his van around all through Europe and do deliveries. And he had this mobile office, while he was driving around. And what I like is people from the community stepping up in Holland and in France and Spain, Belgium, really want to take on the project. So it's, becoming like a community project, which has always been our vision. I mean, the Cosmic Tower is all about creating a better and more harmonious environment for our community. And I've always said it has to be done for the community, right? No politician, no doctor, no famous person is going to do it all for us. I mean, we're the ones we've been waiting for. And if we want a more harmonious world, it's up to all of us. And I just like all the momentum and all the people stepping up. And I think it's really taking the project into a new phase, with it being carried by the community, and also projects like we had on our last call with Mike, with the Cosmic Lakes project, and people like Theo and everybody stepping up. That really excites me, because getting the towers out there and knowing how much they benefit people in the community is one thing, but seeing people actually engaging with the towers and really taking a more active role, that's just what excites me about this project, and seeing everybody come together.
Yeah, that's great, Nico. I have a couple things to add to that. So, I like to think of myself as fairly effective as the one of the leaders at the Wellness Enterprise and the visionary who've helped, carry this business for 10 years. And when I put myself up next to Harald, I feel like I'm about this big, and he was like this big. I mean, this man was just a force of nature. He practically single-handedly, with a very small office staff, delivered 8,000 towers a year for the last 3 years. And he not only sold them, but he delivered them. It's just amazing. So we just got off a call with a half dozen people in Europe who are seeking to form a team to accomplish a portion of what Harald did himself. It's just amazing. This guy was astounding. I'm more in awe of him with each passing month as I learn more about what he did. And I want to share with you a little inspiration from the front lines yesterday. I got a phone call from a 92-year-old woman. Coincidentally, she lives in Lubbock, Texas. So when she called, she's like, well, I'm from Lubbock. And I'm like, well, what street do you live on? She's like, what? Why would you ask me that? I'm like, well, because I've been in Lubbock. And she's 92 years old, and we talked for about an hour yesterday, and she said that the Cosmic Tower Project is the most inspiring support for humanity that she's ever heard of. And she was just so enrolled and excited. And so, that which we're a part of is a really big deal, and it's touching people. And so I invite you to listen from the perspective of that it takes a lot of people to carry this, and we make a difference and we're touching others. And it may be that you only carry it in your heart and you feel like, oh, I'm not doing anything. Or it may be that you're delivering cosmic towers, or it may be that you're an investor, or maybe that you're an owner and you have one and you share it in your community. But whatever you're doing is perfect. And if you're inspired to do something else, please do it. And that can be a unilateral action that nobody ever finds out about. Or it could be you email me an idea that you're working on. You say, I'm not going to just think about this anymore. I'm going to find out what happens if I dialogue with Patter about it. So, or Nico, some people dialogue with Nico directly instead of me. Whichever direction you're called. We all matter for this project. And it's really palpable when people get involved and participate. So thank you for being here. Let me make space and see if anybody has a question. I see there's something in the chat that I'm trying to get to. After a year of being on the road, I'm finally in the same home as my Big Mac computer. I call this computer Big Mac, and I get to see all of you on one window now instead of like a little portion of you. And I actually don't need my reading glasses quite as much, which I'm really thankful for. So let me take a look over here at the chat. So Amelia has been taking her mini tower along most of the time when she has her phone. And will the tower be effective when they're closer than 2 feet? Okay, so proximity with the mini and cell phones, and what can you say about that, Nico?
Yeah, it will be effective. Just don't, just don't put your tower like on your phone or just like put them together. But definitely, I mean, typically the mini is a little different because it's so small, so it goes in your purse with other things while you're traveling. But in general, I like to give the tower some space, put nothing around it. Just so it can do its work. But yeah, absolutely, that's what it's designed for. And I see that Theo also replied that he have noticed that his mini is still very effective for him, and he does the same thing. So thank you, Theo, for chiming in there. It's always nice to have people for the community that do their own measurements and do their own experimentation confirm this, right? So.
Great. Nico, this brings up a topic I want to revisit that's kind of come up over the year. When we were first publishing on the topic, we gave guidelines that you don't want to put your cosmic tower in a location next to a plug, or I don't remember what else the specifics were that we didn't write about, but it comes up over time. And I think where we stand on this, correct me if I'm wrong, is that sometimes the only location for your tower in your home is by a plug. And when it is, you put your tower there, and you don't over stress that there's a plug, because we have plugs everywhere these days. So let's just revisit that topic a year in here. What are your thoughts about what it can and can't be near, if anything, and best practices?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's as you say, it's always best practices. And I just, from this my own experience, I just like to give the tower some room to build its field, to build it up. So don't put your Wi-Fi router on top of it, or just stick it right next to it. And also mirrors. Mirrors are kind of interesting. So don't put it like straight in front of a mirror or right next to it. I know in biogeometry they also talk, if you have a mirror in your bedroom, you want to cover it at night. So just think of it like the tower is helping you clean up this mess, right? So put it in a place where it's relatively clean, right? That it can start to do its work from. And in general, and that's from my own experience, like the smaller towers, like the 35 and the 75, they do not like to sit on the floor, because a lot of the things they neutralize and like Harold would say the dust that's in the air will then settle on the floor. So it's kind of like it's sitting in its own dirt that it created in the cleanup. And for me, what works well if they are at your heart level. For the big towers like the 220, they have their stand and all that. I mean, they're obviously sitting on the floor. It's not an issue, but again, it's a conscious living being. Give it a space, you know, that you would give to somebody that you really honor and that you really respect. And also, I find that if it's sitting in a place where I see it a lot, it's a lot easier to interact with and to be reminded, hey, tower, there are you, and you know, there you are, and to communicate with it and to keep that communication going. But we do get a lot of emails like, yeah, I have a plug here that's sitting 2 feet away from it. I mean, it's no big deal if you're, you know, if you're not using the plug, because a lot of houses, as you say, these days they do have a lot of plugs. And move it around, play with it, see what feels better, see what works better for you. Like my 35, I move it around all the time into different places, or when I go and sit outside, I like to take it outside with me, you know.
That's great. One thing that I love the most about where we've placed them over the last year is having them be aligned with heart level. And
Mm.
so a little higher up for a 35, or, you know, not quite as high for a 75. And yeah, it just feels good to have them around. And yeah, okay. Can you put plastic plugs in the sockets to dampen the electricity, the impact of that?
Not necessarily, it's just more about, you know, the electricity that is flowing there, which generates a field that can interfere with the cosmic tower, and not like it's going to take down your cosmic tower and it won't function. It's just not an optimal environment for it. If you have something plugged in there and there's electricity running, give it some space.
Sounds good. We love your live questions in the chat, or if you want to raise your hand and ask them. So thank you for engaging that way, and you know, keep them coming. And let's take a look at what we have pre-prepared.
And then also, Patter, sorry, like for those of you that do biogeometry or that are good at dowsing and measuring things, play with it. I mean, certain spots are more powerful than others, right? So if you have those skills, you're probably already doing it. But if not, find like the perfect place. Make it a part of your practice.
Okay, perfect. So I think this question may have been asked in another way previously, wanting to know if I can put crystals on or around the tower. I have two, a 75 and a mini. Asking more for the 75. Have previously put something on its top, a bird sculpture. Stood oracle cards chosen for the day. Had a quartz crystal cluster on the top for a while. Really just wanting to know whether any of this is interfering with its functionality.
Yeah, so Harold in generally recommended, you know, don't put anything on the tower or like too close to it unless you can measure its effect. And that should always be the case. Like if you're good at measuring these things, play with it. But honestly, I will put stuff on the tower from time to time. If I want to send remotely to a particular location, I mean, I've done house clearings with my tower through the network and then put the location or like a picture of the house on top of it. And that worked really well. And it's more like temporarily, it's not sitting there. If you want to put certain intentions out, yeah, you can write something and put it on top of your tower and use it that way. But in general, yeah, just give the tower its space. It's more than powerful enough by itself. And like Harold always used to say, like if you're in doubt, like measure it. Learn how to measure these things. and figure out. I've put crystals around it. I put crystals on top of it. John and I did all kinds of stuff in Egypt. Like we played with the biogeometry cubes, with harmonization cards with it, and we measured it, and we were able to tweak it. But if you say like, yeah, I'm not sure I can measure or that I can feel it, just to be sure, just don't put anything on it. If you feel comfortable testing and playing with those things, go ahead and play with it, and measure what works best.
And for those of you who might not have a measurement system, I want to remind you that you know. So a recent example is I was configuring a bedroom and trying to figure out which wall to put the bed on for the optimal feng shui, and it's like square on this wall, no, square on this wall, no, square on this wall, no, square on this wall, no. It's like, geez, I mean, this is just not, it's not working. And then it's like angled in the corner and coming off the corner, and my body just gave a resounding yes. Like there was just this instant alignment. And ultimately, you don't need any measurement system other than that. And so, you know, if you bring your tower in, you're looking for the location for it, put it somewhere and feel it and see what it's like, and see how your interaction with it, rather than listening like I do sometimes with right or wrong, or, you know, is there a one best way? Just put it somewhere and experiment with it. And then try creating contrast, move it to somewhere else and feel how you feel with it in the contrast. And then you get a greater attunement for what is the resounding yes for your body. Same thing with putting things near it. Just see if it feels good. And if it feels really good to you, go with that. And then if you really want to you know, keep advancing in that area and you want more formal measurement system, you can either hire somebody or you can take courses and you can learn yourself. And you know, we've been talking more and more about those things. We think the biogeometry courses, and you know, following the Vesica Institute, and getting a Bovis meter, those are all, you know, really good things. And if you want to hire somebody, you guys can message Theo Lucier, who's active in the chat right now, and he's available to consult with you on whatever you're going through that you want to measure. He did, by the way, throw an additional idea into the chat with regard to the plastic plugs in the sockets. And he suggested you may want to consider Green Wave or Stetzer dirty electricity filters for your outlets. He's used Green Wave and noticed a large difference in feel in the room. Okay, Mary Bell asked, is it best not to put the cosmic tower against a wall?
Well, what's in the wall, right? You can have wires run through it that create a field. Now, in general, because the cosmic tower creates a toroidal field, which is a scalar wave that goes through matter, it's not that big of an issue if there's no electricity running through the wall right at that spot, I would say. But in general, just give it some room, give it some space to build its field and to do its work.
Great. All right, can you tell me if the toroidal field is being directed from all the sides of the tower or just the side that has the blue eyes? Can you tell which is bottom and top when standing? Does that even matter?
Yeah, so the toroidal field, and maybe I can share like a picture of it. Let's see, so people can visualize it more. Like this is an example, right? It's kind of how you can visualize it. So you have to imagine it being in 360 degrees. So you have like the donut shape with the central axis, and then in 360 degrees, the toroidal field is built around the tower. I actually know that Harold kind of made this. I don't know if this is sharing. He actually made like a video that is showing it. But this should give you a good idea of what it looks like. So yeah, it's not just where the blue eyes are, it's actually 360 degrees. And what was the second part of that question? Oh, does it matter if it's like upside down? Now, it doesn't, like for the smaller towers, for sure. Like you have the mini for example, in the mini, you have the logo on the bottom, so you can put it down. But even if you turn it upside down, it will still function the same way. I mean, just think about the bottom going counterclockwise and the top going clockwise. Turn that around, and you get the same thing. So for the small towers, absolutely not an issue. The 220 and the 250 have a little bit of a different setup, as in the toroidal field is actually being flattened out. So for those, it would matter if you put it upside down, but I mean, putting a 220 or a 250 upside down, I don't know why you would do that. So I think this more apply to the small towers. And then a mini 35, yeah, you can turn upside down, and 75 and above they have a base. So there's really only one way you can put it into the base.
Okay, good stuff. All right, Nico, can you stack two 35s? Would it be twice as strong, 3 times as strong? Is it the same as a CT75, etc.? How is the relationship between the various towers?
Yeah, we get this range question, and we get this question a lot. And one thing, like when we come from our left brain, and we look at things linearly, you would say like, oh, I can just take a few 35s and it'll be the same as a 75. And it doesn't work that way. Like a 75 is 6 times more powerful than a 35. And the reason for that is like what determines the range or how powerful the cosmic tower is. I mean, from a physical point of view, there's really 2 things to look at, which is the total amount of water that is in the tower, and then how far the vessels are spread apart, which is what creates what creates that toroidal field. For example, if you take a cosmic tower 220 and a 250, they have exactly the same amount of water, yet a 250 is like 25% more powerful. Why is that? It's because of that extra 30 centimeters that the vessels are apart, which creates a larger field. So you cannot look at it linearly. It's an exponential scale. And then remember, like even when we give the ranges, it's all like a general idea about the range. You kind of how I perceive when you put the cosmic tower in a space is that it just gently starts like filling up this space and starts harmonizing all the distortions that are there. Then how far it can do that is, of course, how much resistance it gets, aka how much distortion. If you're out in nature in Wyoming or in a forest, you're in a natural environment that's naturally very harmonious. If you're in San Diego or downtown LA, there's a lot more competition. There's a lot more distortion that the cosmic tower needs to deal with. That's why we can never give you an exact answer. Will a CT35 be enough for me, right? It really depends which environment that you are in.
It's Margaret. Can I comment?
Yes.
On my experience?
Of course.
I noticed I had CT75 and CT35, and I noticed when I put them opposite each other that a strong field is felt, and especially useful for healing sessions.
Yes.
And then I got the second CT75, and I put it on 2 floors. I put 75 on 2 floors of my house, aligned vertically, but with a floor of the house difference between them. And then my 35 is in a different room. And what I notice is that I have a variety of fields. Each one has its own field. And then there is also a collective field, which has a different name to call it by. and kind of feels different, functions different, and has a collective bigger zone. That was my personal perception.
Yes, thank you for sharing that, Margaret. And yeah, I also like when you put the two, if you have two towers and you put them opposite from each other, and being in the middle of that and working with that is really powerful. With this question, people were kind of referring to like, hey, can I just get a 235s and would it be the same as a 75? Right, which is not the case. But as you say, absolutely, when you have multiple towers and they're working together, yes, it creates a stronger field. And then absolutely, the way you align them with each other, you get different effects. And thank you for
Yeah.
sharing. I'm happy
They're
you're
aligned vertically, and they actually have a separate name for the collective,
Mm-hmm.
and they respond differently, function differently. So it's very cool. Thank you.
Thank you.
I appreciate you guys talking like this, because I'm as soon as you started talking about the fields that are created between two towers, I realize I am between two towers right now. And as soon as I realized it, like I have a mini right next to me, and then a 220 in the other room. And as soon as you guys started talking about it, I started feeling it a lot stronger. So it's really helpful to be in community and hear people's ideas. It presences it differently. Nico, as a from the chat, from Judith, as a pro home pet sitter, my 35 and mini move weekly with me. I speak and meditate with them. Does this decrease the effectiveness, as it is not clearing it's my living space home on a consistent basis?
No, I would not say it's decreasing the effectiveness. Actually, I recommend that you take them with you, so you have the benefits. Absolutely, speaking and meditating. So engaging with your own consciousness, with the consciousness of the tower, definitely makes it more powerful. I think you're referring to you take them out of your home, and then maybe like the field degrades and then the tower comes back in the space. So yeah, I would have to do some work to clean it up again, right? But I don't think like there's really, how should I say, like you would get such a sudden drop in it, like all of its benefits are gone and it has to start again all over from zero. And there's a lot of harmonization that is done by the tower, and certain things it has to deal with always, right? Like 5G or Wi-Fi and what have you. But remember, a lot of like the natural things that are harmonized, they keep going also. Like, you know, if you help your tree and you help your plants, they all have their own toroidal fields that keep going once you take the tower out of the space. So they keep going. And then definitely if the tower sits there and you won't take it away, you get the maximum effect. But I wouldn't say that it's like really detrimental for its function if you take it with you. Actually, I recommend you take the tower with you. Yes.
Okay, Nico, what kind of crystals are in the cosmic tower?
Yeah, we get this question a lot. So they're regular quartz crystals that are in there, and I actually learned more about this when I was in Germany, where they are manufactured. So if you look at the smaller towers, like the mini, the 75, all of them just have one crystal, and it's regular quartz crystal. Now the 220s and above, they're a little different. So the big towers, like 220s and above, actually have three crystals, I learned. So 1, 2, 3. And then for the top crystal, on every corner, there's actually an amethyst point at a 45-degree angle at the top one. And that is to flatten out the toroidal field, right? Because if you look at like a 220, for example, that goes 400 kilometers in every direction, like why would you send it like 400 kilometers up in like space? So with those amethyst points, the field is like flattened out, so the diameter gets bigger, and that is done with those amethyst points. And then I know for like the 4-meter towers that there's even other crystals used, like blue and red crystals, to create certain effects, but I don't know the details about that.
Okay, there's some more from Judith in the chat. I don't have a home, so is it constantly moving? What do you mean by clear again? I focus on it clearing my field from the contact massive EMFs in very unconscious people's homes.
Sorry, I didn't get that. I'm gonna read that. I don't have a known. So when you have like a cosmic tower 35, for example, like even when it's sitting in your car or like a mini while it's moving, it has its field. Right now, if you come in a new location where there is distortion or EMFs, right, you have to, how should I explain this? Like there's so much competing energy. Like let's say there's so much in the distortion bucket, and then the cosmic tower brings a certain amount of power, and it's going to start chipping away at those distortions. Certain things are things that you clear them once and they're done. For example, if there's been distortion in a space, like people arguing with each other, or negative emotions or negative thoughts, you could say like, hey, they're cleared now, right? And they're gone until somebody goes in there or has an argument again, or, you know, detrimental emotions or thoughts. And then we have constant sources of distortion, right? Like a Wi-Fi or a 5G, etc. These are things that constantly require the cosmic tower to work on it. So that's why I'm saying if you come in a new space, the cosmic tower has a certain field and then starts expanding out. And it clears things that were like one-time distortions that are there. And then it's going to get to a certain maximum range, which is pretty much based on what are the distortions that are around. You could almost imagine like them doing a pressure in the opposite direction, and then it's going to settle at where the equilibrium is. But yeah, if you don't have a home and you go to a lot of different places, just know that all those places, you know, are being harmonized by your cosmic tower, and then, you know, you pick it up and you go to a new place and harmonize it. I hope that answers the question. I had a little trouble following that, all of it.
Well, Judith, if you have more, just go ahead and type it in and we'll be happy to ask it for you. And thanks for what you offered, Nico. How does the cosmic tower neutralize non-native EMFs, geopathic stress, toxins in food, etc.?
Yeah, we get that question quite a bit. How can it do all of it? And we actually have to go look at the subtle energy level, right? What do things like EMF and toxins and all that have in common on a subtle energy level, which is a counterclockwise rotation of the energy, basically a dispersion of the life force, right? The life force is being removed from this realm. So rather than going to look at like a chemical level or like an magnetic level, let's look at the subtle energy level. When you have counterclockwise, as the Russians call in torsion fields, and it's counterclockwise, life force energy is moved out of this realm. Now, I have to say, in nature, you're always going to have clockwise and counterclockwise, right? It's part of nature. It's like counterclockwise moves energy out of this realm back to like the spirit realm. Clockwise brings more of the energy into to this physical realm. The problem is with all the man-made stuff and with all the man-made counterclockwise fields, like because of like all the EMF, all the 5G, all the other sources of distortion create an unbalance, right? If you look in nature, you have the clockwise where everything is blooming, where more life force is coming in. And then you also have the cycle of decay, right? With the counterclockwise, where the energy is moving back out of this physical realm. But in nature, it's imbalanced. The issue is with all the man-made stuff and all the toxins that we have like too much of the clockwise, oh, sorry, of the counterclockwise energies going on that are not connected with the life force.
And Renee had an interesting suggestion for Judith, which is you're doing double duty with pet sitting and clearing their homes. Maybe you could charge extra for the service upgrade. Thanks, Anne Renee, for sharing. It's cute.
Yes.
Okay, Nico, it's time for the map of the large towers. Is there a large tower in my area? We of course get this all the time. And I think you did an update recently. While you're pulling that up to screen share, I want to remind everybody we had a little time period a little ways back where we had a couple of large towers that needed to be rehomed, and they've all been rehomed, which is amazing. And there's a new one. I think we've mentioned it once before. It's in Longview, Washington, where one of our community members had a 220 and he passed away. And so his family actually has a warehouse and they're holding it in the warehouse right now, but we don't want to leave it there for too long. And so it's time to rehome a tower in Longview, Washington. So if this is a 220. So if that's you, please get in touch with us and we'll see what we can work out with the family. And if it's not you, please hold your intention that that tower be rehomed, because it seemed like when we brought those 3 that needed to be rehomed to the community and shared, they were all very quickly moved, and it was great to experience that. And you know, Nico and I are really dedicated that people who own towers are getting great benefits from them, and that the towers are where they're supposed to be. So you know, let's work together as a community to make sure that towers that finish their job in a certain area move to a different place. Okay, Nico, looks like you got it. Oh, look at that. Nico's got the Hawaiian Islands, and somewhere in the middle of that, there is a 220. I know just where that one is. So
yes. That one excites me. I mean, they all excite me, but it's like right there on the Ring of Fire. And then just if you see how far it goes in the ocean, I always imagine it like it being like a ginormous like water filter taking care of the oceans.
Amazing.
So this is what the West is looking like.
So we're crossing the border up into Canada, guys, up into the bottom of BC, and we've got the Washington area. Notably to the right, we have openings in Idaho and Wyoming and Colorado. Those would be great places to fill in when the project's ready. And then as Nico scrolls down, you'll see that California is really well covered, and same thing for Nevada and Arizona. And a little bit of bleed through into Mexico, and then Texas is really well covered. And gonna bump into the reading glasses a little bit. Oh yeah, Oklahoma, Missouri, Arkansas. So we're definitely looking for one in the panhandle of Florida or New Orleans or the middle of Mississippi. 220 would fill all that in really beautifully. We've seen some increase in representation up in the top middle of the country. So Missouri, Illinois, Indiana, Michigan, really beautiful. We had, Nico, if you scroll up so we can see Toronto, we had Toronto covered, and a really ignorant delivery driver broke the tower while our client was standing there saying, don't do that. And they really needed to do that. And so that hasn't been replaced yet. So we took it back off the map. But when it is, that whole box will be covered. And then, I'm sorry, Nico, can you take it back down so we can see Florida? There you go. You see, we got the whole of Florida covered. We got a really big tower right in the middle of Florida, which is amazing. And there's just a teeny bit of North Carolina that's not covered. And then scrolling up here, Harold said that the line between Long Island and Buffalo was really important. And we have about a half dozen, is it 6 or I think it's 7 now, towers.
Yeah, I would say that northeastern part of the country, like we have about 7 big towers. I mean, what you cannot see on this map is how many there are, but like the New York, New Jersey, area, Pennsylvania, we got really great, strong coverage there, which is nice because as Harold said, there's important ley line that runs through New York, and that was, important to get a lot of big towers around New York, and we didn't orchestrate it other than use our intention, and yeah, it worked out beautifully.
I think that's one of the things that's the greatest delight. You can stop the screen share, I think, Nico.
Yeah.
The greatest delight with running this project is that we don't run the project runs us.
Runs us.
It just absolutely runs us, and we just show up and respond to what comes up next. So that ley line was really important. You guys have just seen the parts of the country that are open, and perhaps people in those areas who might want to know about the project and want to get involved. Let's just hold the collective intention that the project continue to unfold itself in the absolutely best, perfect way, and that we'll be shown what there is to do next. Each one of us will have right action. Okay, is there a tower in Sydney, Australia? So no. What it's going to take to open Australia is that we have somebody interested in leading there and living inside of the possibility of how would I put together a multi-$100,000 order at once. And she's, I said to her, that's what it's going to take. And she said, okay, how do I do it? And so how she does it is that when we get leads for Australia, we're going to funnel them to her, and she's going to keep holding them together and communicating with people. And when we get enough people who want towers to pay for the majority of a container load to send to Australia, that's what it's going to take to open it. We're not going to ship a couple of towers at a time. They're too vulnerable in the mail. The energy field is too vulnerable. We have to send a container load to have a critical mass. And that's the way Harold did it with us in North America. And we're going to continue on with that principle. So we would love to open Australia, and we have somebody who's point person for those communications. And so if you have something going there, just tell us about it. Make sure we have an email from you. And we now have a folder structure for all the different countries where people are getting active. And we're appointing leaders in those countries and making sure that each country does the same kind of thing we're doing here, where people start to commune with one another. They start to meet and get connected. And we much prefer that towers get handed off than that they get delivered by freight companies. And while that's not very possible in the US at this time, it is more possible in other places. Okay, Judith is back with another one. My friend Rich has the 75. We attempt to get together once a week with me bringing my 35 and Minnie, creating a circle with the 3 in our body. That's beautiful. The field created is so vivid and they deepen our meditation. I often drop into samadhi. Our towers love being together. Oh, Judith, thank you for sharing that. That's so beautiful. Yeah, that's what it's all about, right? Is coming together and creating harmonic energy fields and living in them together. So with that said, this is your chance to ask a live question or put another one in the chat or raise your hand, because we've exhausted the list and we've gotten pretty close to an hour here today anyway. It's amazing how it just fills up. So does anybody have an additional question? Zane? Yeah.
Yes, I just wanted to comment about the crystals, because I'm a crystal collector. I take them around with me and everything. And I after Harold cautioned us about that, or mentioned that it might not be, it's best to keep them away from it, I asked my tower, I said, Grace, can you harmonize. Anything that's out of harmony with my crystals, can you take care of that? I'm putting you in charge of that. And then I laid out, I just rotate them sometimes because I like to look at them, and they kind of surround the base there, and it's all working. I got a spin on the tester there, and it just flew around on a clockwise direction, perpetual motion. So I think I got a thumbs up on that, and it felt good.
I love that, Zane. And for those
Yeah.
who don't know Zane, Zane's just a walking ball of joyous chi. Right? He's our qigong instructor on Lavanya on Thursdays once a month, and he's just always joyous. Just he's amazing. I mean, he at one point was like living in leg braces because Lyme disease had so grabbed a hold of his body, and he is like Forrest Gump, like shattered those braces, and he's now walking and hiking. He's just amazing, and so when you get a yes, it's a yes. And when you develop yourself and your chi and your energy, right, to understand what harmony is for you, you don't have to follow the rules. You don't worry about plugs. You don't worry about this or that. You're just guided to inspiration. So saying just by breathing and being who you are and the energy you've amassed in life, you naturally bring that. And I want to distinguish it so that everybody knows who they're talking to when you speak up. I'm delighted to hear about your crystals.
Yeah, and also Zane's a great supporter of the project. I mean, I don't know a single person that's brought more towers to people than Zane. I think him and Grace, which I believe is the name of his tower, I think he's taking Grace everywhere with him and introducing people to him, to her.
Go ahead, Zane. Oh, you're muted.
Sorry. Grace just returned from Arizona. We had a little trip out there, visited the family, and it's part of the family, it's great. And then it fits right in between the bucket seats, and it's just perfect. And so I never leave home without her. Yeah.
That's beautiful. Well, I'm glad you've touched so many people, and just have them feel your inspiration and feel the existence you're living, right? So great work, Zane, and thank you for sharing. Karen, I just asked you to unmute. Oh, there you are. It looks like you have a question. Please go ahead.
I joined late, so if this answer was already the question was already asked, I'm sorry. About the eclipse coming up on April 8th, how do you what is the philosophy about, do we need to protect the towers? Do we need to protect our bodies? Do we need to enjoy the energies? How does that shift the solar eclipse, shift our energies for the planet, for ourselves, and also for the towers?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't followed like what all the stories are about this eclipse and energetically what's going on, and there's probably a lot of positive things about the energy, and there's probably also doom scenarios that are floating around there. I don't know, but in general, I can say that when these events happen, I mean, they always mark significant shifts in energy in our world. And I'm by no means like, I don't know a lot about astronomy and all that and what it means, so I apologize for that. But in general, at least for me personally, they represent significant shifts in energy, significant shifts in consciousness, not only for us, but also for our world and as a whole. So for me personally, I always want to be in as natural an environment as I can be to experience those phenomena and those energies and and even if you cannot be in a natural environment, I know the cosmic towers create a beautiful harmonious environment. And I also know that Harold would talk about things like solar flares, which can be intense when the solar flares are coming in, and the cosmic towers allowing those energies to be buffered so they don't all hit us at once. But definitely the big towers creating some sort of buffer, giving our bodies and our beings more time to process these shifting energies. And as always, communicate with your tower. Many of you might know more about the energies coming up with the eclipse. So ask your tower for help with it, with integrating these towers and assisting you through these transitions and through these shifts in energy. So I
Okay.
hope that answers your question, Karen.
Yeah, thank you, Nico. Thank you.
Thank you,
you.
Karen. And Renee just posted a link to a channel message about the eclipse in the chat. So if anybody's interested in that, there's a good place to pick that up. And then
Yeah.
Sarah acknowledged that that we do these Q&As and answer all the questions, and she wrote in and got answers to her questions. And she said she doesn't have a tower yet, but her intention is to get one. So Sarah, my comment to you on that, and I'll let you all in on a little secret. So, you know, a lot of websites these days have like these Klarna and other services offering payment plans. And, you know, I don't like payment plans that charge people fees and that, you know, they do per payment and then they do interest rates sometimes, and they have different ways of embedding things. So at the Wellness Enterprise, we have a really simple policy with regard to payment plans, which is you contact me and tell me what you need.
Oh, and Sarah, thank you for the reminder, because I actually did get to speak with the doula in Holland. Now, unfortunately, her English is not very good, so we had to do it in Dutch. But I did get a chance to talk with her, and she has like, I believe, like a 250 at her home, and then she has a 35 and a mini that she takes to her practice. And it was beautiful to hear her feedback. And in a nutshell, she noticed a lot more synchronicities, like when she was in scenarios where like the baby was coming, or somebody had to deliver, but that she said like all the decisions that were made, she felt like it was guided. And some of them were situations where, you know, I'm not an expert at birds, so apologize, but that she felt like the right decisions were made, and there was like 100 times that it could have gone wrong, but that she made the right decision, and that everybody at the hospital was just ready and everything just clicked. And then what she also noticed that, and this was obviously a very, you know, doula with a different consciousness, and that works very intentionally, that the birds were just a lot easier, and that those are the ones that could have been like problematic, or where there were issues, that it was all you know, the highest outcome, and it went the best way that it could have gone. So in generally, I would say beautiful synchronicities. And yeah, I hope to hear more people that have experience about that, but I did get a chance to talk with her. I'm sorry, I forgot to tell you about that.
No, thank you for following up with her. I really appreciate it. It's beautiful to hear the effects of the towers with the birth. It's such a beautiful experience. I can only imagine combining them is magical, I guess. Thank
Yes.
you.
That's great. Well, that point is definitely more interesting than the payment plans thing, but I want to go back to the payment plans thing just for one more moment, just to make sure people understand the quality of the offering of what we make here at the Wellness Enterprise. And basically what we're saying is, we don't run this project based on money. We run it based on spreading the energy. And if you're supposed to own a tower and you know what you can afford and you do your best and you call me and tell me what that is, we'll grant it. So that's the way we want to operate as a company, and we want you all to know that really clearly, because it's a pretty different way of doing business. So I just wanted to go back for a minute and finish that. So thank you. And Renee, wonderful to see you on video. We've spoken on the phone, but I've never seen you on a video before.
Here I am.
Hi.
Hi. I've just been on maybe the last 2 calls or something, and I really don't even know the whole scope of your project, but I really get the energy behind it, and I love the map. And yeah, so years ago, I talked to you about doing a project to actually take the structured water and have a lot of people start to put it in polluted water areas, which is still, because the structured water just totally, when it's put into polluted water on a regular basis, will totally clear it. Anyway, that was a long time ago, but it's still in my heart. And I'm actually doing that. I'm in Albania, and I'm at the Adriatic Sea, and where I am, the the sewage draining goes right into the ocean, actually, in different places. More polluted in some places than others, but anyway, yeah, working with the water is really exciting to create a change with the structured water. But what I'm thinking about today is that you know, for quite a period of time here, there were no chemtrails at all in the sky for maybe like 3 weeks. And then the closer that we're getting to this Aries eclipse, they're just like, I mean, one day there was literally more than 14 stripes in the air at one time. And every day they're hitting it. So I feel like what's they're trying to like amp down the natural upgrade that we're going to get through the photonic rays. You know, they're trying to keep that from coming through. And I was just wondering if, I mean, if you've done any testing on how the atmosphere changes as these the cosmic towers are put in areas. Do you have anything on that?
We haven't done any testing on it, but you bring up a good point, because I spent the winter in Luxor, Egypt, and it's pretty much always a blue sky. And then one day I'm like, oh, why are there so many chemtrails being sprayed? And then the next day it was like an overcast, which is not
Yep.
normal there at all. And yeah, it was the solstice. I didn't even keep track of the calendar. And the next day was the solstice. So yeah, absolutely. That is being done when there is significant energies coming in. And but I do want to remind you that I think that one of the biggest powers of the chemtrails is that they put us down, in the sense that we feel like we're not powerful, and that they can do things against our free will or take that away from us. But I just want to say that we are much more powerful in our own consciousness, and to work with that, and to not let them feel like they can do things and take that away from us. I believe that we're much more powerful beings than just that. But we have not done specific measurements with the chemtrails, and if anybody in the community has, we're definitely willing to, you know, we want to hear about that, right? And to work conscious with the towers, and especially with the big towers, to clear those. So yeah.
I totally agree. We have to work on it alchemically. I mean, I work on it alchemically with prayers and bring in the purple dragons and things like that. But you know, it's interesting to watch, because exactly what you're saying is like, isn't it strange that with their weather reports, they know exactly what days are going to be clouded over from the chemtrails? It's definitely a correlation. Correlation, is that the real word? It
Yeah,
correlates, right?
Yeah, it's correlated. Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. But I just want to remind everybody that, and as you say, work alchemically with it, and we're much more powerful than that. And the biggest, you know, power that it has for me is that it makes a lot of us believe that we're insignificant and there's nothing that we can do about it, and they can just do this against our free will, and we're the victims of it, and we can't do anything, or we get mad at it and we lower our vibration because, oh, these stupid chemtrails, and I cannot believe, and how dare they do that, and your vibration goes down. And I think I've shared this before, but like early on in my awakening, I was all on the chemtrail bandwagon too, and I would be posting it on Facebook, and I was like, how can you guys not notice this? And then people were like, they're contrails. No, they're not contrails. When I was a child, I wouldn't see those trails in the air, and I would lower my vibration, because here I was like fighting with people and, you know, forcing them, you got to wake up now, and I cannot believe you can't see that. And then I met like this native chief one day, Golden Mountain Eagle, I forget his name, it's been over a decade ago, and I asked him, I was like, what do you do about chemtrails. How do you deal with that? I mean, what can we do about this? Like, oh, chemtrails, great. Thank you for this beautiful medicine. Thank you for helping us heal the earth. Thank you for working tirelessly to spray this medicine all over the world and helping environment and spreading this love. And then all of a sudden, like, that like changed my life because it made a click within me. And he reminded me that, yes, we are the creators of this reality and we're much more powerful. All they can do is give us an invitation to lower our vibration and to go with it and to give our power away. But ultimately, we're all co-creators and we're much more powerful than anything they can do to us. So it's great to hear that you're working alchemically with it.
I love it that you shared that story because in the past, I haven't been doing it recently, but in the past, I would always ask that it just all the chemicals might be transmuted into the violet flame and all the violet flame come down to the planet, you know. So thank you for sharing that part. Yeah.
You're welcome. We're the creators and we're powerful beings. So when we get an invitation to give that power away, just decline.
Yeah, you know, and I love it. So we can just go, oh, thank you for giving me this opportunity, this substance that I can now alchemically change into the violet flame for the good of everybody. So I love it.
Yeah,
Thank you.
and also with like 5G and cell phone towers, right? A lot of people are like, I can't believe they're putting up another 5G. They're killing us. They're like, so then we're amping up that energy, right? And we're giving it more power, right? This outer world. So what I like to tell people is like, hey, be grateful for it. They're giving us a carrier wave, and we could put healing frequencies on top of that. Thank you for putting all these out there so we can spread the love more, spread the healing more, and put that information on top of that carrier wave that they're providing everywhere for us.
Nico, I love that you're sharing that. And what I want to just layer on top of that is the concept that whatever we believe is true or becomes true, right? Because it has the power of the thought behind it. So, yeah.
Yes, and those in power, they're not creators. All they can do is give us a story to buy into. We are the creators. If we take their story and run with that, then we keep perpetuating fighting and distortion and killing and war. For us, they don't have any power. I mean, they're a small minority that doesn't really, in my opinion, have the power to create. They're just co-opting our co-creative consciousness. So focus on what you want to see in the world and keep taking more of your power back from the outer world and become stronger. And that's how we're going to shift this reality. We're not going to shift it by fighting 5G, by fighting war. No, we're only going to piece ourselves out of war. And it's all about taking more of that power back that we've given away to the outer world and to other individuals and really become co-creators and knowing that we're the creators of this reality. So thank you for sharing that.
Appreciate what you guys have both shared. I'd like to share a little on this topic myself. You know, when the Wellness Enterprise started, the dream that it pulled through my heart like stronger than anything I had felt to that point in my life was to get rid of plastic water bottles on the planet. Like I really wanted to do something about that. And as I pursued the journey, it became clear I had to have a story that was better than what people got from plastic water bottles that I could tell them. And when they heard it, they just drop their bottle and never want one again. That was what developed over time. And then I learned about the energy of water. And then I learned when you take living water and you put it into us, you change our operating system from being, you know, Coca-Cola and beer and whatever else we're drinking to being living water with negative charge and consciousness. Then you connect us to our creator through the medium of water. And my dream just kept changing as I had those experiences. So the Wellness Enterprise used to call itself the Structured Water Superstore because that was how big the vision was. And now we call ourselves the company that loves you, because what we want to do is we want to awakening you a palpable connection between you and your creator. So that you, when you go to pray, when you go to be, when you go to take on whatever issue, you get an accurate reflection of who you are back from the energy field that you're in. We want you always building your energy field, becoming the truest you. Because my vision to this day about the chemtrails is, looked up at those plans and I'm like, how is my life going to impact that? And the answer is when the life force in the heart of that pilot changes. And the pilot says, I'm not flying this plane today. That's my answer. That's what drives me. So when I look up and see the chemtrails, I say, oh, Patter, you haven't finished doing your work yet. Like, get back to work and see if you can inspire more people to actualize themselves. So, I love that we can have different approaches to this, and they all come from harmony and bringing us together. And whether we're talking about staying in a high vibration, and that's our thing, or getting actualized and reaching people, which is what I'm drawn to do. It doesn't matter what, or the prayers that you're drawn to do, and Renee, like it's all part of it. So thanks for holding space while I shared that, you guys. Couple of things going on in the chat. So John said, intentions embedded in our thoughts create the reality. So what do you want to focus on? That's perfect. Like, what are we focusing on? And this is a beautiful community of people. I hope you guys take comfort in being with one another as much as we take comfort in being with you. We buoy each other, and it's how we lift each other up. Theo, as usual, has great ideas about how we can deepen what we're learning, and he's recommending a book, Reality Transurfing, which is creating your own layer of reality with intention and feeling. Is a quick synopsis of it. So anybody who wants to check that out. And Patricia Steller shared, this is only what it looks like while the change is happening. So one other thing on that point is, like, I've noticed that as the intensity of the bombardment of the problems seems to have increased, like, monumentally in these past years, so has the solution. Look at this community of people that we are. Feel our heart energy together. Feel the cosmic towers together. It's really extraordinary. I think I've caught up with about everything. Does anybody else have anything live they want to jump in with? Okay. Well, John, yeah.
Unmute, John.
Hang on, you didn't get the button yet.
Details. You think I'm a tech guy, I could figure that out. Intention is the most powerful thing you can do. Period. And the mind with intention can't tell the difference between reality and not reality, is proven in physics. They have you experience this waterfall in life, and they have you think about it in a meditative state. Your brain fires the exact same way. So your intention can be manifest. It can be stored in electronic devices, according to Dr. Tiller, and manifest somewhere else where no one even knows what the intention is. And they've done that and proved that over 200 times now. Mm-hmm. So focus on seeing all things anew, and the world will become new. So that's about it.
Nice. Well, I'm noticing that there are, speaking of new, there are more videos being turned on, and there's nothing wrong with having your video off. You might be busy or multitasking or have a lot of movement going on, and that's fine. But that you guys are turning your videos on and seeing and being seen by one another even more means a lot to me. So thank you for turning your videos on, and please keep doing it on our calls. We love seeing you. We love your voices. Look at that, even more videos. You make me so happy. I'm gonna do the wave all by myself on my bouncy chair that I'm reunited with. Thank you guys. I love seeing your videos on. It's really awesome. I'm just so touched, moved, and inspired to be part of this community, and that somehow God has given me a path where I get to connect with you and find my heart as we find each other. It's well, enough said. I think you got it. So thank you. Does anybody else have anything they want to share live? Okay, well, let's take the time to unmute everybody, which I'm gonna find this button and ask you all to unmute, and you can hear one another's voices as we say goodbye until next time to each other. So please
Thank
do
you.
unmute. All right.
Thank you, Patter.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Bye.
gee.
Thank you, Nico. Thank you.
Thank you, Nico. Thank you,
Bye.
Patter. Thank you,
Patter.
everyone.
Thank you, Nico.
Guys are
Appreciate you too.
Thank
Love you all.
Bye, guys.